When playing Truth or Dare, my fiancée Sophia's first love actually asked her in front of me, if James wasn't there, could we still get back together? Just when someone tried to smooth things over by saying it was a joke, Sophia replied, yes. Everyone present was shocked and looked at me at the same time. They all thought I would flip the table on the spot in anger, but I just smiled and said, well, since we haven't got the marriage certificate yet, I'll be generous and help you get together. The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and subscribe. A week ago, David returned to China, and Sophia personally welcomed him. But that day, my father was diagnosed with coronary heart disease and needed a bypass surgery. I lost my temper and yelled at her on the phone, blaming her for not understanding the priorities of things, but she turned around and blamed me for taking advantage of the situation. The disappointment and blame in her voice were not concealed. After hanging up the phone, Sophia blocked me. At that moment, I felt as if I didn't know her anymore. This was the first time Sophia and I fell into a cold war. In the past, whenever we quarreled, I would immediately take the initiative to admit my mistakes, for fear of angering her. But this time, I found that after being blocked, I was unexpectedly calm. It wasn't until 3 days later that my mom called and said Sophia was crying. I knew she was extending an olive branch to me. It was always like this. Sophia would never take the initiative to say sorry, but she always had various ways for me to break the deadlock first, ordering a barbecue, making an appointment for a hot pot, and if that didn't work, she would cry in front of my parents. When I softened my heart and lowered my posture, Sophia asked with a smug look on her face, do you know what's wrong? In the evening, she teased me lazily like a kitten, and finally ended with my surrender. This has been the pattern since I started pursuing Sophia. I gave her a peach, but I couldn't ask Sophia to return the favor. When I was with her, I was used to being wronged and carefully trying to figure out her thoughts, as if I couldn't breathe without her. But yesterday, Sophia said confidently, Auntie didn't blame me, so stop messing around. This sentence suddenly made me feel unbalanced like never before. Sophia didn't understand how painful and devastated I was outside the operating room that day. Although I am a man, I am also a child. I really hope that she can let me lean on her, but what I got was her accusations and indifference. Immediately, Sophia sent a message, honey, do you remember what day it is tomorrow? The 3rd anniversary of our engagement. How could I not remember? Every time I would take great pains to prepare for a long time, but Sophia always felt that it was not romantic enough. Because I only look for the best hotels, send cosmetics, jewelry, bags, these unremarkable gift-giving methods can never match David's blessings on WeChat moments. Seeing that I didn't reply, Sophia thought I had forgotten and said angrily, it's our wedding anniversary. Forget it, you always give me gifts in the past, today I will make it up to you once, I have prepared a gift for you, look forward to it. I replied with one word, okay. After putting down the phone, I continued to read the lawyer's letter. If it were in the past, I would definitely be overjoyed, but this time I was calm. After getting off work, Sophia told me to remember to buy red wine and candles and wait for her. She sent me a message at 6 o'clock, but she didn't come back until 12 o'clock. During this period, I was afraid that she had an accident, so I called her several times, but no one answered. Finally, I couldn't help but open WeChat to ask her bestie, but I found that there was a lifelong confidant in David's circle of friends, which was only visible to me, and the picture was a watch, the one I wanted for a long time. The moment I saw the picture, I felt that something in my heart was broken, and then slowly reorganized and healed bit by bit, and finally it was calm. At that moment, I suddenly felt relieved in her heart. David is always more important than me, but strangely, I don't care so much. In the middle of the night, I heard someone open the door in my dream and slowly walk towards the bed. The familiar scent of perfume hit me, and Sophia hugged me, but when her red lips were about to touch mine, I instinctively turned my head away. This subconscious action made us both stunned for a moment, and also made me completely sleepless. Perhaps to avoid embarrassment, Sophia ran into the bathroom as if escaping, but she left her phone behind. The message was still flashing, and David asked, "Are you home?" Sophia replied, "Almost." David said, "I can't let you go." Sophia didn't reply. I flipped up and saw that the two of them chatted every day. I was not interested in taking a closer look, but the constantly vibrating phone was really irritating. I grabbed the phone and threw it accurately onto the sofa in a parabola. In the past, their daily chats made me jealous, but as long as I complained a few more times, Sophia would immediately keep me at a distance, thinking that I was childish, boring, and disrespectful to her. But as a fiancé, didn't she understand what a sense of boundaries was? Slowly, I didn't have the urge to say another word. A few minutes later, Sophia came out after changing her clothes. Seeing the phone on the sofa, she was stunned for a moment and asked, "Did you touch my phone?" I yawned and said, "What time is it?" Sophia took out a glass of red wine from the bedside table and drank it. She said, "There's nothing between him and me." I nodded and fell asleep. After that, I could no longer hear her explanations. Finally, after a sigh, the world was quiet. I will never lose my temper again, and I will no longer emphasize emotional principles and bottom lines, because that's useless. Sophia still quietly wiped away the things I cared about, and even went beyond the line. My collapse was just a joke in her eyes. I was too tired of waiting, too tired of paying, and my expenses were not enough to make ends meet. So I chose to turn around. The next morning, after getting up, I found that Sophia had gone to the second bedroom. When she saw me coming out, she pointed to the suit beside her and said, "James, this is for you." I picked it up and took a look, and laughed dumbly. "I won't talk about the color and style, even the size is wrong. Why did you give me something for David?" I put on my coat and was about to turn the doorknob, but Sophia stopped me and said, "It's not what you think. He broke up and got drunk in the bar. After I sent him to the hotel, he vomited all over himself." I interrupted her, "Really? So the clothes were dirty, you bought him a suit, gave him a watch, and finally waited until he sobered up and had the energy to post on WeChat moments to disgust me, and then you went home?" She frowned and said, "James, do you have to say it so harshly?" A trace of hurt flashed in her eyes. I asked, "Then what do you want me to say?" I looked at Sophia playfully, and she was speechless. Under that innocent expression, it seemed that everything was wrong with me again. Sophia was very angry this time. She lived under the same roof, but in 2 separate rooms with me. The only thing that connected me and her was the cat. We adopted it, named Happy. At first, I made a clumsy confession: "Let's take care of it together." She looked gentle, smiled, and nodded in agreement to my courtship. From then on, I fed the cat and she cleaned up its poop. But these days, Sophia came back very late, so I simply kept Kyson in my room. The little guy was lost, and at this time, he used to lie in front of Sophia's notebook and make trouble. He can't speak, but I can understand the unspeakable grievance. Unexpectedly, David sent a message, saying, "I can return the watch to you, why is a man so stingy?" I ignored him. I have mental cleanliness, and I think it's dirty if others touch my things. David sent another message. That day was the most devastating time for me. A group of people laughed at my failed marriage. Don't blame Sophia. I was silent for a while, and chose to add insult to injury. "So all your relatives and friends are dead, and you caught my fiancé?" A moment later, Sophia rushed in from the guest bedroom and accused me. "Are you sick? How did you talk to David?" We broke up. The last time Sophia said she wanted to break up was because I accidentally broke the crystal glass David gave her. After she scolded me, I couldn't help but comfort her and said, "I'll give you an identical one." But Sophia was furious and said, "Do you know what it means to me?" Then, Sophia sent me the word breakup. I anxiously begged her on the phone, wrote a lot of words to express my apology to her, to keep her, and begged her to forgive me. Sophia was silent for a long time, but sent me a voice message to mock me. "What are you writing? Men like to write short essays. People just deserve to be beaten. Okay, as a punishment, I will make you buy me a bag." I paused for 2 seconds and said, "Got it." The moment I hung up the phone, it was as if a truckload of cement poured into my heart and then quickly solidified. Sophia is always sensitive about David, like a taboo that cannot be touched. But so what? Now, I don't care. I keep asking myself, who am I? Why should I force myself to meet a standard that can never be reached? So even if Sophia posts pictures on Twitter to irritate me, I still feel that the sky is clear. He helps her fix her computer, save parking spaces, and even buys the same shoes on Amazon. She helps him bring meals, pick up express deliveries, and sort out the mistakes in his copy. Even when Sophia went on business trips to major first-tier cities for the company's new projects, we didn't even contact each other for 4 or 5 days, but the two of them still recommended songs to each other and made jokes every day. I could sense that even if I had deep feelings for Sophia, I was slowly being worn out by her indifference. Until someone couldn't stand it anymore, our mutual friend Olivia organized a party. I was never late, but I was half an hour late. David looked at me unhappily and said, "James, you were so arrogant." I glanced at him. He had been late countless times, but as long as I asked one more question, Sophia would explain for him with a stern face, "David is jet-lagged, it's normal." I smiled and said, "Well, I'll treat you this time." We divided the table into 2, and we had a tacit understanding. Olivia and I sat at one table, and Sophia and David sat opposite. I ordered a Chaosan beef brisket soup base from the waiter. David loved it. Sophia added, "No cilantro." I remembered the first time we had a meal together. Because Sophia had a special liking for cilantro, I deliberately put a lot of it. She frowned slightly, glared at me, and just asked the waiter to bring another serving of soup base. David smiled proudly and said, "James, look how considerate Sophia is. When she likes someone, she will always remember everything about him, including his eating habits." Under David's provocative gaze, I clenched my fists. Although Sophia said ignorance is not a crime, I will never eat chaos on hot pot again. Olivia beside me laughed and said, "Can't you guys eat cilantro?" Sophia looked at me in surprise. I think she now understood why I only ordered a dango hot pot when I was with her. She could not add cilantro for David, and I could only eat spicy hot pot for her own good taste. "Sophia has never been the caring person you said, but the target is you." I have kept this sentence in my heart for a long time. I don't understand why David's words and actions always seem to stab me in the heart. But he still looks innocent, just like this time after we had enough wine and food. Olivia asked me to go home with Sophia, but David insisted on playing truth or dare. When the bottle of wine turned to him, he asked retaliatorily, "Sophia, if you are not engaged now, can we get back together?" The way he declared his sovereignty was very mean. Everyone was shocked, and you could hear a pin drop. But the one being asked slowly nodded and said, "Yes." Olivia was afraid that I would lose my composure, so she subconsciously pulled my clothes. I chuckled and said, "Well, since we haven't got the marriage certificate yet, I'll be generous and help you." The party ended in a bad mood. It wasn't my fault, but the two male companions at the other table stood up and slammed the table. One of them pointed at David and cursed, "You two are doing things between lovers in the name of friends. You two are tacitly aware of it." Before Sophia turned pale and David made a defense, the other one stood up and said, "Don't invite me to such parties in the future. Don't talk to me about soulmates. It's just mental cheating." I smiled and said nothing. I have said the same thing many times. Every time before David said anything, Sophia would jump out to defend him. Every time I felt pain. It's not that I don't feel pain now, but the wounds on my heart have already scabbed over. Olivia's good intentions at this party were ultimately in vain. I took the subway to the left, and they drove to the right, neither of them looking back. I was the most isolated person in the whole place, and a faint sense of loss floated through my heart. That feeling was like something that I couldn't bear to part with. Sealed in the warehouse, it existed, but it didn't work out, but it will never come again. I arrived at the station and slowly went home. In the cold wind, a leaf fell from the branch, and its trajectory was natural and decisive, like a sign of a breakup. "Sophia, it seems that it's time to give up on her." I was thinking about how to start, but the moment the door opened, I found that she was sitting quietly in the room. Sophia rarely took the initiative to speak. "You were in a good mood during the few days I was away." I replied, "Well, you are busy and I am busy too." She was a little deliberately finding fault, but I didn't want to say more. She said, "David insisted on coming." I was puzzled, and immediately understood that she was explaining. In the past, when she was with David, I was worried about gains and losses, but now I don't care. But she said, "It's funny anyway." I said, "It's only right, after all, we are close friends." I tried to end the conversation perfunctorily, but she was still hesitant. In the past, I would have scratched my head and asked for clarification, but now I am indifferent. Finally, Sophia mustered up the courage and said, "I have something to discuss with you." I said, "Go ahead." I tried not to look so impatient. She bit her lip and said, "David is my best friend. He submitted his resume after returning to China. It's not appropriate for him to always stay in a hotel." I immediately understood that she wanted David to move in. Just as I was thinking about how to refuse, David was already knocking on the door with a lot of bags. I felt my blood pressure rise. "It's already been decided, why are you pretending to discuss it with me?" I turned around and wanted to go into the house, as long as she didn't invade my personal space. I didn't want to make it too embarrassing before breaking up. But Sophia held me and said, "David is allergic to cat hair." I looked up at her, not understanding what she meant. Sophia hesitated for a moment, and said in an unquestionable tone, "Take Kayaksayan out to live for a few days." The atmosphere suddenly froze into silence. I laughed out loud. It turns out that the idiom "laughing when angry" really exists. David said, "James, don't get me wrong." David had already opened his suitcase and said, "I know I'm wrong to disturb you and Sophia these days. I'll disappear when I find a job." He turned the tables and made me want to slap him. I said coldly, "Get out." These three words made the man and woman on the opposite side unable to react. Sophia spoke first, "James, I've already given in." Seeing my livid face, she lowered her posture and said, "Just stay for a few days." I broke her fantasy without any hesitation and said, "This is our wedding house. It seems that I have a veto power." Sophia was silent for a long time. Finally, with a very cold face, she stared at me and said, "Okay, there is more than one house. Just don't get jealous when the time comes." She took David's hand and left. I watched their backs leave, but in my heart I was trying to recall how jealous I was. It was not until the door slammed shut that I remembered that I was the one who slammed the door last time. The two of them went to the KTV. The two of them were singing love songs to each other, their eyes were full of affection, and I caught them, and they almost got into a fight. After the quarrel, Sophia ignored me, and David's vague smile made me even more angry. Now that they left in anger, it was a relief for me, a conclusion to the tangled emotions in the past, and an honest confession from the bottom of my heart. I said let's part ways in peace in the chat box, and there was a red exclamation mark. Was it blocked before, or was it blocked again after adding it back? Just as I was about to call, I got a call from Sophia's father. I was prepared to listen to his scolding, but my uncle told me in a panic that my aunt had a uterine tumor that was too large during a physical examination. When I rushed to the hospital without stopping, Sophia was already crying. When she saw me, she immediately rushed over and hugged me. I froze for a moment, and said expressionlessly, "It's nothing, calm down." The operation was more successful than expected. It was just that David was quite disappointing during the period. He first complained about the difficulty in finding a job, then asked Sophia to have dinner, and finally suggested to find a caregiver when he knew that my aunt's tumor was benign. Sophia yelled into the phone, "My mother is having surgery, did you know?" When I signed the consent form for the surgery, I was shaking all over. I looked at her in surprise. This was the attitude Sophia had never had towards David. Sophia continued, "Do you know, I cried from beginning to end at the door of the operating room." The moment Sophia looked up, she saw me not far away, and seemed to understand something, saying, "James, I seem to know that I was wrong." I waited for these two words for a long time, but the apology I had expected had become distant and vague in the constant depression. I had a little fantasy that Sophia would wake up and make up, but during the week I took leave to accompany Sophia's mother, I took the time to remove the impacted tooth that had been there for 9 years. Half an hour later, after pliers, hammers, and grinders, it finally grew wildly in my mouth, giving me a new feeling. I had endured the pain and the pressure it put on other healthy teeth, but one day I finally made up my mind. I was fed up with its ups and downs. Whether Sophia knew she was wrong or not, I felt I had had enough of her. It was boring. Auntie was discharged from the hospital after a week. At my insistence, I let her live in our wedding room for a few days. Seeing me busying around, Auntie choked up and said, "James, I feel relieved that my Sophia will marry you." I felt a little melancholy in my heart, and hurriedly covered it up by saying, "I'm going to live away for a few days. It's not good for your health to keep a cat at home." But she smiled and said, "What does it matter? I don't mind. The baby in your heart can't be treated differently because of my arrival." Sophia opened and closed her mouth, and finally lowered her head and said nothing. When I went back to pack my luggage, Sophia insisted on following me. I ignored her, and after packing my underwear, I put Happy in the cage and went straight to open the door. Sophia stared at me, maintaining her pride, and said, "Don't be like this, okay?" I subconsciously wanted to pull her away, but she pressed against the door, as if she had to give me an answer. I used all my strength, but she refused to give in. During the struggle, Sophia seemed to be extremely aggrieved, and rushed over to hit me like crazy. When I grabbed her hand and tried to persuade her to calm down, I suddenly stopped. She had a silver ring on her ring finger. I have given her many rings, gold, diamond, jade, but never silver. I feel that I can't give her a gift. I remember telling Sophia that only my ring can be worn on the ring finger. I suddenly felt very funny, and said calmly, "Get out of the way." Sophia also realized something, and suddenly retracted her hand, and her voice was very panicked. "David said that the hospital has a lot of energy, so I asked me to wear it to ward off evil spirits." I turned on my phone and pressed the screen against her face, because I knew that this must be David's bad taste again. He enjoyed the feeling of being above me and watching me being angry but not speaking out again and again. Sure enough, in the circle of friends, David had a ring on his ring finger that was exactly the same as Sophia's. Sophia was silent for a long time before she said, "A silver ring doesn't mean anything." I didn't want to get entangled with Sophia anymore, so I pushed her away and left calmly. We returned to a mode of not disturbing each other. During this period, I was completely focused on my work. After working diligently, my boss actually promoted me to partner. It was also my birthday, so good things come in pairs. I proposed to book a restaurant to celebrate. After choosing a place, my phone vibrated. I didn't know when, but Sophia added me back. She said, "My mother went home this morning. Thank you for the gifts you prepared." I thought about it and replied, "It's my duty." I was too busy to send my aunt and uncle off. Please apologize on my behalf. A while later, she called and said, "It's your birthday. I bought some of your favorite dishes. Come back happy." I replied, "No need. My colleagues celebrated my birthday." She asked, "Can I come too?" She asked cautiously, and I replied crisply, "It's not convenient. No one brings family members. Every time she has a party, I want to stick to her like a dog." After a few times, Sophia frowned and said to me, "Don't come if I don't ask you to go in the future, because best friends have private conversations." I asked in return, "Then why can David do it?" Sophia said disdainfully, "He is a close male friend. How can you compare to him?" This time when I invited everyone to dinner, I made a new discovery. After drinking, everyone had a lot of fun. A member of the group patted me on the shoulder and said, "James, you know what? We have always said behind your back that you are good in everything except that you are out of touch with the world." I didn't understand why, and a girl next to me explained, "They said that you go home after get off work every day, and you don't even attend dinner parties. Although you will do your best to help if there are any difficulties at work, we just think you are aloof and unsociable." I didn't expect that he was so approachable. I laughed. In the past, I was afraid that Sophia would be waiting for me at home alone and would be too lonely. Now, why should I be so sentimental? She has a best friend, and I can also have a brother. After the dinner, the guys took me to the big bathhouse, where I took a bath, had a massage, and sang. Sophia called several times, and finally I set her to do not disturb. I once said that I was worried that Sophia would not be safe walking at night, so I wanted to pick her up, but she laughed and said on the other end of the phone, "There are a group of friends escorting you, why make a fuss?" It was almost 11 o'clock, and Sophia said she was waiting for me in the lobby of the hot spring. My colleague sent her the location. Sophia asked, "Are you not drunk too much?" Sophia saw that my face was red, and came up to help me. I waved my hand and said, "It's okay, I didn't drink much." Sophia drove over and insisted on not letting me take the subway. On the way, she said softly, "So this is what it feels like to wait for someone." I sneered and pretended not to hear. When we arrived at the neighborhood where I rented a house, Sophia asked tentatively, "Can I go up with you?" I frowned and said, as if I was drunk, "No, my place is small and can only accommodate me in Kaixin. When I'm not here, you can ask David if he has found a job and take him to stay for a few days." Sophia was embarrassed, but this time she didn't get angry. It seemed that her eyes flickered a little, and she said, "You've drunk too much." I sneered, "People speak the truth after drinking." But she started to change from then on. I really didn't expect that as a licking dog, I would also have a day to counterattack. After the lease expired, I had to go back. Sophia inexplicably cared about me, cooked for me, waited for me to go home, and even postponed the weekend gathering with my girlfriends. But I felt uncomfortable all over. I told her, "You don't have to be like this. I got a promotion and my home time is uncertain. I even have to work overtime on Saturdays and Sundays." But she said, "It's okay, just send a message." She also started to study how to stew a healthy soup. When she put the fish maw and chicken soup in front of me, I was surprised to find that it was as delicious as in a restaurant. The time before that, she almost exploded the kitchen. Was she busy on the overseas call with David and was absent-minded, or did she not care about me at all? I have to sigh that Sophia put her heart into it. But for some reason, my taste buds can't taste the taste of happiness. Not only the taste, but all my 5 senses have problems. I used to love being with her every night, I used to worry about her, and I used to be careful to win her favor. Looking at her face, I suddenly felt very unfamiliar. Even when she deliberately dressed very sexy, I strangely had no physical reaction. Every move, I suddenly felt very disgusted, the kind of disgusting that makes me want to vomit. It turns out that sometimes, when you are no longer in love, you don't even realize it, but your body knows. A tear rolled down Sophia's eyes, but I didn't feel bad. Sophia wanted to sleep next to me, and I didn't refuse, but I chose to get up and go to the study to work. At night, David called me and hung up after one ring. I suddenly felt relieved and couldn't stay for another second. At 4 in the morning, I slept on the sofa. In the room, Sophia cried bitterly. I immediately got dressed, turned on my phone, and searched for hotel information. Even though there were no single rooms, I spent 500 to stay in a double room. The moment I closed the door, I suddenly felt relieved. The stars were shining. It turned out that slamming the door loudly did not mean you really wanted to leave, closing the door quietly meant you really didn't want to come back. In the following days, Sophia was like nothing had happened. She was even more concerned about me, asking me about my work, asking me about trivial matters, and even trying to ask questions about topics that she used to get annoyed with, such as tennis, models, and the film reviews I wrote. This made me even more exhausted. I started working overtime and even slept in the law firm all night. In fact, I really wanted to tell Sophia that there was no need to do this. I really wanted to leave you. No one leaves you on impulse. You can't see the painful emotions that I endured again and again. Just like the cracks under the dam that gradually widened due to erosion, you only see the moment when I collapsed. In the next month, I deliberately staggered my time with Sophia. She looked for me many times and blocked me at the entrance of the company many times, speaking in a low voice but with a sincere attitude. Even though I acted very distant, even though I tactfully told her that we needed to deal with it coldly, even though we both knew that the relationship was gone and I couldn't get it back, and that we were over, she didn't dare to face the consequences that she knew from the beginning. Sophia refused to accept the fact that I didn't love her, and she would come to wait for me when she was free. That day, I took the initiative to take on a lot of work. My colleague brought me spicy hot pot. She looked out the window and said, "The rain is a little heavy. Your fiancée is waiting for you downstairs. Let her in." She said she didn't dare. I frowned, took an umbrella and rushed out. It was raining heavily. Sophia was standing in the rain, like a withered flower, soaked all over. I pulled her into the company and asked, "Are you crazy?" Under the surprised eyes of the security guard, I took a towel to wipe her face. Sophia said with joy, "James, you still care about me." I looked at the excitement in her eyes after she succeeded, suddenly stopped what I was doing, and said, "Wait until the rain stops, and then go back." Sophia was stunned and said tremblingly, "I was negligent about David's matter. There is really nothing between him and me." Hearing that name, I suddenly felt ashamed, threw the towel to her, and said, "I don't want to hear your explanation. If you want to torture yourself, please do it." Sophia didn't expect me to be so cruel, her face darkened, and she said, "How can you forgive me? We are already engaged, is this a small matter?" I looked at her speechlessly and said, "Small matter? It's come to this point, and you still think it's a small matter, and you still think I'm fussing about it." Sophia realized what she said and apologized quickly, "I'm sorry, I just can't understand why there is nothing between him and me, why it's out of control." After saying that, a look of confusion flashed across her face. Perhaps Sophia really couldn't understand why I was determined to get away from her even though I had already let go of my attitude. But has she really never thought about it? Don't I have any friends of the opposite sex? Don't I have any brothers to invite to eat, drink, and have fun? I do. But I always have 3 people at dinner parties. I won't eat with girls. I won't forget my significance to my family as a man just for the sake of a party. I won't go over when my colleague's computer breaks down because I have a fiancé at home. But what did I get? I got Sophia's accusations again and again. I have also done things like waiting for someone in the rain. I caught a cold and my teeth got inflamed. My gums were so swollen that I couldn't close my mouth. In the hospital corridor, everyone had company. I called Sophia to ask her to come and keep me company, but she said unhappily, "I told you not to worry about gains and losses, to give each other some space, and to have your teeth pulled earlier, but you insisted on doing it. You got it inflamed. You deserve it." I wanted to beg her to be soft-hearted, like giving alms. But David's voice was there saying, "Sophia, why don't you move? You're killing me." I couldn't hold my phone, and the screen broke. I was sick, but she was only busy playing games for others. Although I have healed the scar and forgotten the pain, the scar is still there. Now, all the arrows Sophia shot at me have rebounded on her. Since she said I was cruel, I sent her the picture of David's watch that was visible only to me on our 3rd anniversary of engagement, and asked, "What did he mean by posting this? Even if you and he explained it to each other face to face later, why did David post this picture to me after getting drunk?" Finally, I said word by word, "Sophia, you have spent so much effort to please me, but do you know that I hate soup the most? I think we really need to have a good talk and part ways amicably." Sophia didn't speak for a long time and disappeared in the rain. I made up my mind to go home and be frank with her, and make a decision early, which would be good for both her and me. I believed Sophia was waiting for me at home, but when I opened the door, there was no one. The next day at noon, I received a call from David, who said that Sophia drank so much that she vomited blood and was in the hospital for emergency treatment. I went there immediately. Sophia was lying on the bed, barely breathing, and she looked more miserable than I had ever seen her. She said, "James, why are you here? I'm sorry to have worried you." Sophia's words were rarely humble. "You beast." David's voice came from behind me. He punched me and said, "How could you do this to Sophia? You know she was soaking wet yesterday and drank 3 bottles of red wine while crying." I stood up, glared at him fiercely the next second, and kicked him to the ground. Ignoring David, I looked at Sophia and said, "You would rather ruin yourself than talk to me face to face. Why bother to escape? She asked, can you wait until I get better? The pleading in her eyes made people feel uncomfortable. I said, okay. I stood up and prepared to leave. She asked, James, can't you stay with me for a while? Sophia's voice was very sad. Stay? That's ridiculous. But David, who had just stood up, looked like a sharp blade, wanting to kill me. David gritted his teeth and said, you won't die without him. What do you want a man like this to do? David ordered me to leave. I was stunned and smiled. You see, I have always been redundant. After Sophia recovered, she didn't go home. She sent me a message saying that the doctor told her not to be stimulated now. David's punch was pretty fierce. When I applied the egg to my face, I found that it had become cold at a certain moment, just like the love between Sophia and me. Am I making a fuss about nothing? I still remember that during a break in the evening self-study class in my junior year, the class was noisy. I finished a design drawing for Sophia and couldn't help poking her back and asked, do you want to have a relationship? Sophia looked confused. I spoke quickly and in a low voice, I'm serious. I want to have a relationship with you. I still can't forget Sophia's expression at that moment, surprised, shy, and sweet. I also can't forget that after graduation, I traveled thousands of miles to go to her city, and she cried on my shoulder. And on New Year's Eve, I went to Sophia's place without telling her after I finished my postgraduate entrance examination. At the moment of fireworks, I suddenly ran out, holding the cat she had admired for a long time, and then asked her very seriously, would you like to get married after your work is stable? We went to see a house together. The agent asked her what kind of apartment she liked. She said in a sweet voice, don't ask me, my husband makes the decision. Sophia has always been very good to me, as long as David didn't show up. My mother said, she didn't cheat on you. You've been together for so many years and you rarely even quarreled. In the end, you broke up just because you said a few words to other boys and had a few meals together. Can you bear it? I just don't understand. Everything is moving smoothly and happily towards the future. As long as we move forward normally, everything will be fine. But why is she obsessed with David? She looked at me so seriously that year. In the noisy classroom, we stared at each other for a long time, and she nodded for some reason. Then I smiled with relief, raised my chin while spinning the pen, and said to her proudly, don't be embarrassed to ask questions next time. You can ask your boyfriend any questions. I really want to go back to that time. Sophia also sent a message saying, I saw that her eyes were dark. She was full of light, but in a moment, she suddenly dimmed and became a speck of dust in the universe. I tried to recall the light she was full of, but I couldn't remember it. Later I found out that it was the light in my eyes when I first met Sophia. I choked up and replied, you can't let go of your first love, but I don't want to be a cinnabar mole. I have always been very calm, never cried in front of her, and never showed any weakness or reluctance. I always thought that I handled my emotions and the breakup process very well and rationally. But when I smoked all night, I realized how much I minded Sophia's inner wandering at the moment she abandoned me, from disappointment to quarrels, to alienation, to giving up, and finally breaking up. Some roads, once you walk on them, there is no possibility of turning back. Even if I still love her, I know it is impossible to be together. There is only so much love, and it can't withstand too much consumption. It was time for my dad's monthly checkup, but Sophia still didn't want to meet me face to face. After the checkup, my mom asked, you and Sophia are not young anymore, it's time to get married. I thought about it and answered truthfully, Mom, maybe she and I are not meant to be together. After a little bit of reluctance, my mom sighed and said, Mom hopes you are happier and taken care of, don't lose yourself. I burst into tears and asked for leave to take them out for 3 days. When we parted, I posted a group photo on WeChat Moments. Sophia's voice call came over, Uncle and Aunt are here. I said, yeah. Sophia asked, why didn't you say it earlier? I said, I posted it on WeChat Moments. Besides, aren't you afraid that my parents will urge you to get married after seeing you? My parents like Sophia very much, and they are sincere. They are very open-minded about betrothal gifts, houses and cars, and even having children. They just feel at ease with a piece of marriage paper. But Sophia said, once we get the certificate, we're stuck. When she wants to start her own career, my parents will definitely ask her a lot of questions. From then on, I kept silent about it. Now, I told her firmly, wait for me in the house, don't delay. As soon as I opened the door, Sophia suddenly took out the household registration book and said, James, let's go get the marriage certificate. I was slightly stunned. She continued, I have thought about it over and over again. I can lose everything, but I can't lose you. Her move surprised me, but after being surprised, I just felt tired. For so long, I was the only one who paid, but Sophia took it for granted. Slowly, I was very tired, just like when I took the household registration book to propose to Sophia when my father was seriously ill, but she said I was just doing it for the sake of getting married. At that time, I should have given up hope and just waited for the last straw that broke my back. Sophia asked, "James, are you willing?" I asked without any confidence. I said, "No." When I said these 3 words, my heart ached a little, but I didn't regret it at all. Just like Sophia in front of me was very disappointed, but not sad enough to lose her composure. She held onto the sofa and asked with all her strength, "When did you stop liking me?" I didn't say anything. Sophia asked again, "Was it the day I gave the watch to David?" I remained silent. Finally, she asked, "Or do you think I never care about you and don't even know that you don't like coriander?" I sighed and said, "Sophia, you understand the truth, and I can understand what David means to you. If you can't get the love you want, you need time to dilute it. But you can't ignore me as long as he appears, and indulge or even acquiesce in your feelings for him. Love is a one-way street. I am loyal, I sacrifice, and I am always sincere and true. You shouldn't treat me like a dog." She choked up and said, "But now I know I was wrong. I really only love you." Sophia cried helplessly. I said, "No, you don't love me. I was hit by a car when I went out before, and I almost had a car accident. I only broke a small skin. When I thought of you in my mind, I felt the pain getting more and more intense, and the resentment in my heart became greater and greater. I want you to stay with me, even if you scold me, I will feel happy. But you always push me away indifferently. Do you think men don't feel pain? You can feel my joys, anger, sorrows, and joys, but you are just afraid that David will see it. Do you want to prove to him how good you are? Or do you want him to see my perseverance in you and let him be touched? Or are you ready to play both sides?" Sophia couldn't speak anymore, she just shook her head desperately. Seeing her speechless, I finally understood. Falling out of love is never without signs. There is no sudden loss of love, it is all accumulated little by little. When too much is accumulated, you can no longer love. There was a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole and it was David. I said to Sophia, "Go into the house and hide. You said you don't love David, so let's prove whether David has any other intentions towards you." After David entered the house, he looked around and asked, "Where's Sophia?" I curled my lips and said, "She's not here." He said, "She blocked me. I went to the company to look for her, but she avoided me. Why did she suddenly become like this?" Later, I saw her at her bestie's place. But she told me that she had a fiancé and asked me to know the limits. "But didn't you break up in the hospital?" He rarely showed a frustrated look in front of me and said, "Sophia has never been like that. She's obviously a very proud person, but after you hung up the phone with her, she couldn't stop crying." David smiled bitterly and said, "It turns out that she really loves you that much." David suddenly stared at me and asked, "Are you going to marry her?" I met his gaze, and the tension and temptation in my eyes were clearly revealed. He came here today, obviously afraid that I would reconcile with Sophia, and he obviously had not given up. I asked, "Do you love her?" David paused for a long time, raised his head and laughed meanly, and said, "Yes, I realized later that I loved her the most." "Do you know why you failed to propose to her with the household registration book?" Sophia asked for my opinion, but I had just divorced at that time. How could I give up this opportunity to ruin it? I laughed, picked up the cat, took the luggage that had been prepared long ago, and said, "You have been here for so long, you are not allergic to cat hair, right? Then I hope you can love Sophia well, provided that you can catch her." The moment I closed the door, a heart-wrenching voice sounded behind me. Sophia shouted, "Get out! I don't want to see you in my life." I picked up my phone and changed the note for Sophia from wife to her full name. If we can't support each other, then forget each other. From then on, they parted ways and lived happily ever after. But I thought too simply. A peaceful parting was just my wishful thinking. I should not forget that Sophia is a paranoid person. She was obsessed with David at the beginning, and now she is obsessed with me. In her opinion, being dumped by a suck-up is a great shame. Even though I have proof that David has ulterior motives, she still keeps sending me messages. After being really annoyed by her, I chose to turn off my phone. I wanted to find time to get the wedding house back, but looking at Sophia's posture, it is obvious that she wants to continue to struggle. I thought about it and decided to find a hotel to stay in first. After taking a shower, I turned on the computer and prepared to operate it with both hands. If Sophia is really difficult to deal with, I will put the house up for sale. But just as I turned on my phone, Sophia's phone rang on the screen. "James, I'll ask you one last time, is there really no room for redemption between us?" I replied without thinking, "Yes." She said, "Okay, very good, you will regret it." I didn't quite understand what she meant at first, and I thought I had done nothing wrong to her, so what was there to regret? Until 3 days later, I went back and prepared to discuss the house. But after I talked for a long time, Sophia seemed to be indifferent, playing with her phone by herself, and didn't even raise her head. I shook my head helplessly, thinking of the clothes I had pulled down before, so I went into the house to deal with them. But the moment I pushed open the bedroom door, I was almost speechless. The bed was messy, and the key point was that there was a pair of dirty underwear thrown in the trash can. I took a deep breath, and I smelled an inexplicable smell of heather emanating from the bed, mixed in the air, and had not yet dissipated. This was the smell left by last night's passion. At that moment, my heart stopped. I was just disappointed before, thinking that Sophia was a stone that could not be warmed up, but I never thought that one day she would make me disgusted. A good woman chose to throw herself into the pit. I remembered that Sophia called me no less than 10 times last night, but I didn't answer. Could it be that because of this, she chose to retaliate against me in this way? It's simply unbelievable. I remembered that the first time Sophia looked at me after entering the door, she had a taste of gloating. So that's it. I calmed down and no longer had any worries. Facing this woman who brought trouble upon herself, I asked her again when she was going to move out of the divorce house, but she took the initiative and said, "See, James, are you so upset that you want to drive me away? David is much better than you in bed." There was a sense of pride in her tone that I had never had before, which made me feel uncomfortable all over. But I didn't want Sophia to see any emotional fluctuations, so I gritted my teeth and said coldly, "Can you give yourself a little face? I know that some people nowadays, especially girls, will be desperate once there is a problem in their relationship, and then find excuses to fall into depravity, and attribute everything to the man's abandonment of her. This logic is incredible, but many girls do it. But no matter what, a person who finds excuses to fall into depravity is even more unforgivable. Only when you love yourself can others love you." The night Sophia and I had sex for the first time, I made full preparations in advance, just like completing a sacred ceremony. Seeing her shyly lying in my arms and calling me husband for the first time, the sense of happiness, responsibility, and ownership suddenly burst out, as if I had passed the imperial examination. It was also these feelings that urged me to take precautions every time, for fear of any accidental injury to her. I am not feudal, but in this matter, I always respect Sophia as a prerequisite. Unexpectedly, Sophia abused herself in this way, belittled herself, and was extremely stupid. I said silently, "Congratulations, you got what you wanted." I watched Sophia become condescending again, as if her regrets and apologies over the past few months were all a joke. The door was unlocked, and David, with his luggage, noticed my presence and suddenly looked smug. The arrogance in his eyes seemed to be declaring his victory. I just felt an inexplicable knot in my heart suddenly welling up. So damn mean. David hesitated, smiled nonchalantly, and said, "Ex-husband, are you still not leaving? Do you want to stay and have dinner with us?" After that, he hugged Sophia and kissed her, and the word ex-husband was said very deliberately. After a while, Sophia said, "Does he deserve it?" I looked at the two of them quietly, and they were ready to take over the magpie's nest. At this time, David picked up the key ring and threw it, saying, "Wife, when did you change the lock? I don't want to see the annoying people." I looked over and found that he actually had the key to the door in his hand. Suddenly, the rationality in my head gradually collapsed. Sophia raised her eyebrows slightly, smiled wildly, and said, "I know, I'll find a locksmith later. What's there to be jealous about?" The two of them were talking in the living room, loving each other, and every word and every look was full of tenderness and love. It took me a moment to realize that I was the clown. Perhaps I had thought that Sophia had come to her senses before, but it was just self-deception. Now she was showing her true face after taking off her disguise. She was just telling me provocatively that the pain she had with me in those few days was just a part of their game of reconciliation. At that moment, I clearly felt that I was fooled. Not wanting to waste any more time on this couple, I said, "This house is the wedding house my parents bought for me." Sophia in front of me chuckled and said, "Yours? Then James, what do you think of me? A bed warmer? I own at least half of this house. If you don't have $500,000, don't think you can let me go easily." The air fell into dead silence at this moment. My teeth were chattering. Is this woman so shameless that she wants to destroy even a trace of good memories? David said, "Ex-husband, you can't be so unkind." He walked up to me with his arms around me, patted my shoulder recklessly, and said, "If I were you, I would transfer the house to Sophia. Let's put in a price. At worst, we'll suffer a loss and give you some money to buy the house. After all, you know that Sophia and I cleared up all the misunderstandings in bed yesterday." After that, he glanced at Sophia, raised his lips and said, "Anyway, I was her first man, so it's normal for her to be obsessed with me." I'm sorry to have you taking over for 3 years. I couldn't help but punch him. I had to fight. I can ignore what Sophia did to me, and I can tolerate my infatuation, but I can't accept that after being fooled, David still beat me up. A gentleman can be killed but not humiliated. In the past, I put down my dignity, personality, and stubbornness, just because I couldn't let go of someone. Now I understand that the person I gave up everything to love will never spend the rest of my life with me. Some things seem to be wrong from the beginning. The fight was fierce, or rather, brutal. David lost several teeth and his jaw was dislocated. Sophia's nose was broken and she was bleeding. I also broke a rib. In the end, both parents went to the police station to pick up the children. David was seriously injured and would have to rely on a tube for feeding for a long time. My parents also paid for his medical expenses. I just felt humiliated. Sophia and I's circle of friends was also blown up, with all kinds of opinions. Some said Sophia was shameless, while others said I was wasting her time and was too cunning. Amidst all the different opinions, I lay on the hospital bed, deleting those monsters and ghosts, while thinking carefully why Sophia had to go to such a dead end. Was it unwillingness? Guilt? Was it a counterattack against the humiliation she had humbled me to redeem herself before? I couldn't guess. But perhaps only in this way, with each other torn apart, would she feel that there was no way back and would not regret it. The door of the ward was pushed open, and it turned out to be Olivia. She asked, "What are you going to do next?" I said, "I have to find a suitable house to live in first." I spoke with difficulty. Sophia's intention was to give them a month to prepare before they could move out. Olivia then said, "Well, I have a vacant house. Anyway, as you know, I'm extremely busy at work." I looked at the girl in front of me. I didn't expect that she would help me at this time. Olivia graduated from a medical university. When I first met her, she was Sophia's best friend. She never favored either of us. Not only did she know that I didn't eat coriander, but every time she saw David making trouble, she would immediately reprimand him and tell Sophia that this kind of ambiguity was a hidden danger. I wanted to thank her several times, but because we were of the opposite sex, I chose to keep silent. Now, relying on this look of losing face and losing the battle, I said without scruples, "Don't you think I've gone too far?" She replied, "No, I think it's right." Olivia looked serious. She has always been like this, speaking her mind. Olivia continued, "I forgot to tell you that Sophia and I broke up." I tried to force a smile, and it hurt. I agreed to Olivia's proposal and went to her house. But I didn't expect that the house opposite was also hers. Although the fight forced me to rest for 2 months, I had no regrets and was reborn. However, the sequelae of the nails and anesthesia were still prominent. After taking anti-inflammatory drugs, I felt groggy. My forehead was cool, as if someone was taking care of me. At first I thought it was my mother who insisted on staying to take care of me. When I woke up, I smelled the fragrance of pig's trotter soup in the kitchen. My body didn't hurt as much as before. I listened to the birds singing outside the window for a while, picked up my phone, and saw dozens of messages and missed calls, some from colleagues, brothers, and of course, people who were watching the show. Someone took a screenshot of Sophia's circle of friends for me. She was applying medicine to David, and it said, "You are my prince." No wonder she refused without hesitation when I asked her to watch the movie A Chinese Odyssey together. It turned out that it was not that she didn't want to, but that I was not worthy of her. I wrote in my moments, "If you send me information about this person again, don't blame me for falling out with you." I lifted the quilt, tidied myself up a bit, and saw Olivia staring at the soup in the kitchen. When she saw me coming over, she said, "My aunt made it. She went out to buy groceries. She told me to let you drink it while it's hot after I see you wake up." She handed me a bowl, and just as I was about to reach out to take it, I groaned in pain. She snorted coldly and said, "You're so impatient." She helped me to a recliner with the most gentle movements and put a pillow under me. She said, "Don't get me wrong, we have this subject in clinical practice." I watched her pour the soup into the bowl first, let it cool for a while, touched it with her lips, and felt that the temperature was about right, and fed me one spoonful at a time. It was the first time I was fed by a girl, and my heart felt warm and sour. Sophia had never treated me like this before. After the incident, when she was wiping my mouth, our eyes met for some reason and we were both stunned. My heart skipped a beat and I thought, "James, you beast, you are actually thinking nonsense at this time." My mother pushed the door open and broke the deadlock by saying, "Is my son feeling better?" Olivia immediately stood up and ran out shyly. I felt warm in my heart. A person may really meet two people in his life, one who amazes the time and the other who softens the years. My mother packed everything, but she was troubled about taking care of my cat Happy. It's not that she dislikes it, but because Happy, the stupid little cat, is used to jumping into my arms and acting cute when he sees me. I didn't expect that he would honestly lie down at her feet and turn over his belly when he saw Olivia. Olivia also loved it and said, "Come on, sister will take you to take a bath." My mother helped me lie down and said, "You have suffered all these years." I was stunned and didn't say anything. My mother said, "Boda, when you gave Sophia jewelry, she was just SOSO, but when she gave you a pair of sneakers as a gift, you would jump for joy. At that time, Mom thought you were too humble." I felt sour and ashamed, and said, "Mom, don't say it." My mother said, "Mom just wants you to know that you should cherish the person in front of you." I know what my mother means, but James can never be David. I would rather not have love that was obtained by trickery. I can love humbly, I can compromise for the sake of loving her, but I will not do things that make me lose myself to fight for it. I would rather not have love that is obtained by resorting to trickery. I lay back in bed, ready to delete everything about Sophia, but I saw another tweet from her. It turned out that she was going to watch the remake of A Chinese Odyssey. A picture of holding hands, with the words, "The first time you watched this movie was in the school cafeteria, now in the remake, you are still by my side." I looked at the tickets I had booked on the cinema app, and suddenly remembered the movie review she wrote to me in the past. Is there a reason to love or not? To seek the scriptures or not, can you choose? As romantic and playful as Zisha, every frown and smile is full of love. The person who steps on the auspicious cloud, if you feel strange for a moment, it must be the longing I left in your heart. I was furious. I suppressed my emotions and sent a question mark, but when the message that I could not leave a message appeared, I was stunned. She really did everything she could to provoke me. At this time, Olivia came back with Xin, put it down and prepared to leave. My mother quickly stopped her and said, "Olivia, let's have a meal together." Olivia laughed and said, "I have something else to do." My mother immediately said to me, "Boda, you let Olivia stay, aren't you still friends?" My mother stared at me with fire in her eyes, and the subtext was, "Why are you so confused?" I looked at Olivia and whispered, "Listen to my mother." She chuckled and said, "I'll wipe Xin's feet first." Olivia wiped them very carefully and said, "I used to have a big orange cat that looked very similar to it, but it ran away." I asked, "Does it have any marks?" I had a hint of doubt in my heart. Olivia answered casually, "Yes, there is a heart-shaped black spot on the armpit." After saying that, she suddenly came to her senses, looked at me, and suddenly raised Happy's front leg as if she had telepathy. A heart-shaped birthmark was clearly visible. I looked at her incredulous eyes and said, "I adopted Happy." She squatted down, hugged Happy tightly, and kept saying thank you to me. My mother said, "It seems that it is destined." My mother laughed happily beside her. In the next few days, my fracture recovered well. Although Olivia was very busy, she always took time to accompany me. She also brought me some information about Sophia. Sophia seemed to be pregnant. David joined Lou's company and acted like a boss, which offended many people. He was not a student with outstanding grades in college. He was popular only because of his ruffian appearance and inferior means. I have always been upset about the compensation my parents paid me. Why? I was just fighting back, but because the other party was shameless, my parents had to use their hard-earned money to settle the matter for my future. After thinking hard, I remembered that David seemed to be quite depressed when he returned from the divorce. If he had no problem, it would be impossible for him to return home empty-handed after his shameless behavior. It seemed that his divorce was not that simple. So while I worked hard to exercise, I asked someone to retrieve David's divorce information. Olivia often came to cook with my mom. I never thought such a cool girl could cook such good dishes, especially the braised chicken. My mom asked me to get in touch with Olivia, but my old wounds had not healed. I even felt that I was not worthy of such a good girl, so I was always vague. And through Sophia, I was more certain of one thing: liking can be one-sided, but love requires two people to go both ways. If I pursue it now, it will be too fast. So a month later, I took Happy home. Sophia was quite funny, she even broke the TV I bought. But I was already indifferent. But strangely, Happy was like me, she didn't react at all when she saw Sophia. People can hold back their emotions, but cats shouldn't. Sophia also felt this and looked at Happy in surprise. Small animals can't talk, but sometimes they understand more than people. Sophia asked softly, "Are you disappointed in me?" I didn't know what she was going to say, so I shook my head and said, "I didn't want to see you before, but now I don't want anything that smells like you. I've already put the house up for sale, so there's no need to say any more nonsense." When I said this, I suddenly realized that I wasn't shy or humble at all. Sophia didn't get angry and leave because of what I said. Instead, she looked like she wanted to say something but hesitated, but she chose to leave without saying a word. I could feel that she had a lot on her mind, but I didn't want to get involved in everything about her. Even though I knew that because of David's matter, her parents and she had a big fight, her best friends almost cut off their relationship with her, and even her work began to have problems. Just like the moment the door closed, the click indicated that the repeated advances and retreats between her and me had already reached the point of numbness. When the heart is numb and broken, everything becomes calm. She left, and I forgot it was destined. In the evening, Olivia came over and took a look around the room. This time, after she handed me the pork ribs, corn, and chicken feet soup, she said, "James, come with me to the hospital tomorrow. The hospital is going to ask a lawyer to consult about legal issues. Can you help?" I agreed without hesitation, okay. I didn't expect to meet Sophia and David here. When Sophia saw me, a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, but she didn't say anything. David, on the other hand, asked the doctor complacently, "Doctor, last week you asked me to come for checkups and x-rays every month. Is my wife pregnant? Is the baby healthy? Is the fetus stable?" After that, he looked at me and asked knowingly, "Oh, isn't this an old acquaintance?" If it were in the past, I would definitely be furious, but this time, my heart was repaired unconsciously, and it even seemed that under Olivia's gentle care, there was a layer of protection that was not easily stimulated by words. I actually smiled calmly and replied, "Yes, it's true. Congratulations on having a baby so soon. After all, the woman I raised for you for 3 years is returned to you intact." David used to rely on his shamelessness to play the good cop and bad cop with Sophia, which made me scratch my head and feel very aggrieved. But now I have cultivated a thick skin as thick as a city wall. David was so angry that his eyes flashed with fierceness, but he immediately recovered and said, "Of course I will send you an invitation. If you are not useless, Sophia and I would not be where we are today." I mocked, "Yes, just like a pair of worn shoes, if they are stained with shit, you can wash them and take them out. You can also say that they are limited edition. Just don't let them break. Broken shoes are limited edition. Once they fail, they can only be thrown away." David was so angry that he finally stopped pretending and slammed the table and said, "Who are you calling a slut?" I looked at him with a half-smile, because I received the investigation report yesterday. David's divorce was not due to a breakdown of his relationship as he said, but more accurately, he was dishonest abroad, gambling, cheating, and even taking drugs. The woman is already going through the legal process, and he is essentially escaping back. Sophia finally spoke up and said, "Okay, stop talking nonsense, there are other patients waiting." David rolled his eyes in dissatisfaction and continued to put on a fake smile. But after Olivia read the report, she suddenly said seriously, "Sophia, you are a worthless child." This sentence was like a thunderbolt from the sky. David slammed the table and said, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Olivia was not afraid at all and said, "David, you are hiding something from Sophia, don't you know it yourself?" She handed the report to David, and I took a glance. Oh my God, AIDS. David's expression instantly became colorful. He ignored Sophia's presence and shouted, "Olivia, are you talking nonsense? I've seen this before." He was sweating profusely and explained to Sophia, "Sophia, I was infected accidentally when I was abroad. Believe me, I just didn't pay attention to disinfection when I was traveling." Olivia looked at him silently and said, "What a joke, you are already in the second stage, and you still tell me that it was an accident? You are kidding." Sophia pointed at David, gritted her teeth, and couldn't speak for a long time. Finally, she threw the medical record card and bag on the ground and said, "You are talking nonsense. You have been plotting against me from the beginning, right? You took advantage of me being drunk, had sex with me, and threatened me with my family and career, otherwise how could I end up being laughed at today?" After saying that, Sophia grabbed the scalpel in front of Olivia and rushed over. The next second, Olivia grabbed her and shouted at David, "Get out! Do you want to kill someone?" David was still hesitating, and Sophia was almost unable to suppress her anger and struggled desperately. Olivia slapped Sophia in the face and glared at her and said, "You have no principles. You broke up so cheaply and you blame others." I frowned slightly, and Sophia collapsed to the ground and sobbed. After that, Olivia took us to the lounge. After entering the lounge, I said to Olivia, "Olivia, can we talk alone?" Olivia frowned, but still nodded and walked out. After she left, Sophia trembled and said, "James, I was really wrong this time." I sighed, and suddenly felt that this woman was really strange to me. After a while, Sophia said, "I'm sorry." This time it was very sincere, because I saw the despair in her eyes. I asked calmly, "Why do you say that?" Sophia didn't expect me to react so coldly, and she murmured to herself, after David and I got together, I also felt that I was taking revenge on you at first, so I did what I had to do, such as watching TV, drinking milk tea, and eating barbecue. I still ate the same amount of food, and sometimes I ate more. I didn't drink alone because of missing you. I wore the same clothes as before, and never lost weight because of missing you. I ate when I should, played when I should, slept when I should, and worked when I should. I laughed and said, "It makes sense. I'm living a good life." To put it in a poem, I smile at the clouds, and I get drunk and smell the green plums. Sophia cried and said, "No, that weekend, David and I went to the mall to buy daily necessities. When I carried 3 bags of things, I suddenly realized that the boy who took the initiative to carry things for me, who couldn't bear to see me suffer, and who hugged me regardless of the occasion, was missing. Even though I tried hard to pretend to be cool, the memory of my body is still there." Sophia grabbed my hand and asked, "Forgive me, okay?" The warmth from the palm of my hand was familiar, and it was the familiar Sophia. I had waited for this moment for a long time, but now I don't want it anymore. I pulled away immediately, and then she grabbed me again. Before I could react, Olivia rushed in, and as soon as she saw the situation, she said, "Are you two reconciled?" After saying that, Olivia felt a little embarrassed again. After all, the window paper between her and me had not been broken. Olivia turned and left, and I took advantage of this opportunity to push Sophia away. Seeing that Sophia still wanted to pester me, I shouted at her, "Enough, Sophia. To be honest, David was so impulsive just now, it was going to cost someone's life, but do you know why I was indifferent? Do you need me to tell you the answer?" Sophia choked up and said, "But I only have you now." I shook my head and said, "What do you think is the most difficult thing in the world? Picking stars with bare hands, loving but not being able to get. There are thousands of people in the world, and it is difficult to meet me again." I didn't understand this sentence before, but I understand it now. The fact that I couldn't get you before and you can't meet me later are all arranged. I noticed that the light in Sophia's eyes began to fade, and she gradually calmed down, and finally only sadness remained. I continued, "Sophia, I have never looked back from the beginning to the end, and I will never look back." Sophia's eyes were full of despair. I stood up and finally said, "Please tell David for me that he once said that a broken mirror can be reconciled, but now I want to tell him that a broken mirror can only be reconciled, not the same as before. There is a crack in the middle, so that it will be broken more thoroughly next time." When I left, I never chose to look back. Everything was finally over. When I returned to Olivia, she had a blank expression on her face and seemed angry. When Olivia finished her work, she looked up and asked me, "Do you still like Sophia?" I said, "No." Olivia snorted coldly, "Then why did you let her hold your hand? Why did you talk to her for so long? Just because she was deceived, have you forgotten how she betrayed you?" I didn't know how to answer. I just thought that Olivia, who was as calm as a chrysanthemum, could be so unreasonable, but I also found her unexpectedly cute. I deliberately teased her and said, "Then don't I have a new girlfriend now?" Unexpectedly, this sentence made Olivia so angry that she stood up, her little face flushed, and she said to me, You. After a while, she sat down depressedly and said, "Forget it, James, you are a stupid person." Then she walked out by herself, and when she passed by me, she said, "I won't go to your house tomorrow, we both need to calm down." I went home, didn't eat, sat on the bed, and looked at the tulips on the balcony. I suddenly remembered the different attitudes of Sophia and Olivia towards flowers. Sophia would go to the flower shop to buy ready-made bouquets, while Olivia would carefully select them. One would throw them away when they were no longer fresh, while the other would carefully cultivate them like her own children. At this moment, I understood a truth: if you like a flower, you will pick it, but if you love a flower, you will water it. At this moment, I was also sure that Olivia loved me, and I had already fallen in love with her without knowing it. However, I really couldn't let go of my pride, and I didn't know how to confess to Olivia tomorrow. I really couldn't think of a solution, so I could only call my mother again. She picked up the phone and said directly, "Olivia can't see you, but she can also see the patient? You are useless. Chasing girls is just shameless." Yes, why didn't I think of it? So I hurriedly found the medical record book, flipped through it carelessly, and I discovered a big secret. During the time when Olivia took care of me, I had almost understood the heavenly book she wrote. On the medical record card, there are 3 paragraphs she wrote during the 3 days she stayed with me in the hospital ward. The first day I wrote, "When I first met you, you were fireworks and I was ashes. I need a lifetime to clean my heart." The next day, he wrote, "3 parts is not the 3 parts of flowing water and 7 parts of dust, but the 3 parts of the moonlight, which is the only one in the world." On the 3rd day, I wrote, "On the day I wanted to confess my love to you, you gave the flowers to her instead. I'm not sad, I just want to watch you being happy silently." I was stunned for a moment, and then sweetness suddenly filled my heart. Olivia was loyal and stable to me, and treated me well without making any noise. Her behavior was ambiguous but not excessive, and she always found reasonable reasons. So, I also understood why I had to go tomorrow, a kind of concern, a kind of remembrance, a kind of involuntary concern, and a feeling that my body could not help but walk towards that person. I dressed up and put on a big green shorts and a suit, and deliberately calculated the time to go to the hospital. When it was my turn, she didn't look up, and I didn't say anything. When she couldn't help but look up, she realized that I was dressed like a peacock. Olivia was angry and asked, "Why are you dressed like this?" I glared at her and said, "I just want to see if there is a market for me." I took off my suit, and there was something even more eye-catching inside a fake tie and shirt. She found a blanket to cover me, and I pushed it away, pointing at the medical record book and asked her, "What do these mean?" She couldn't help but said, "It's medicine." I chuckled and said, "Medicine? Then you can accompany me to the pharmacy to get it now." Olivia was embarrassed and said, "I'll talk about it when I get home from get off work, okay?" I didn't give her a chance to breathe, and said, "Wait for you to get off work? Didn't you say you wouldn't go home? If you dare to take a step out today, then there's nothing to say." Olivia was forced by me and had to admit it, saying, "James, I don't want to see the doctor anymore." I replied, "Am I not also your patient?" I crossed my legs, chewed gum, and said like a gangster, "Tell me, what do you mean?" Olivia probably had never seen this strong side of me, and instead became a good kid and said, "Do I need to tell you? Haven't I written it all down?" I replied, "I don't understand, you read it out loud, really read it." Olivia was probably pressed by me, and really started to read it. But halfway through, I blushed. I didn't expect a good girl could read so loudly. I interrupted quickly, "When did you start to like me?" Olivia said, "At first sight." I was speechless and said, "Then you said I was an idiot with strong limbs and a simple mind." Olivia laughed and said, "It's me who is stupid. It's my slowness that brought you and Sophia together. I'm sorry, I almost missed you." I tapped her nose and said, "People say that it's best not to miss two things: the last bus home and someone who loves you deeply. The bus is you, and the person is you too, right?" Olivia said, "Yes." I locked the infirmary from the inside, and I didn't care even if the sky fell, and I couldn't help but kiss her. Extra story. Sophia had problems at work, so she quit and decided to go abroad for medical treatment. She personally sent David to prison, with a serious crime, and he would be in prison for at least 10 years. Olivia and I met their parents and got our marriage certificate. That day, I received a courier box and a bank card. In the courier box was a ring I gave to Sophia, and in the bank card was $200,000. I was distracted for a moment, smiled, gave the card to Olivia, turned around and threw the ring into the moat. If we can't support each other, then let's forget each other.